This story began a long time ago, back in previous life. In one not poor family, two girls were born surprisingly similar to each other. Even their parents sometimes couldn't tell them apart. Mom specially dressed them in different dresses so as not to confuse who is who. But it didn't help at all because the girls were desperate minx, and as soon as they were alone, they changed into each other's clothes, thereby completely confusing others. Their father was the captain of the fast moving trading caravel, and he often took his family on a sea voyage with him. They traveled to different countries and saw many extraordinary things. One of their favorite pastimes was standing on the stone, throwing bread to seagulls flying in the fireway. The birds grabbed it on the fly, overtaking each other, and having received food, fell behind as if thrown away by a powerful current of air, giving way to their friends. The girls were similar not only in their appearance. Their inner world, character, and hobbies were surprisingly in tune, and there were almost never disagreements between them. They received a good home education, loved to work in the garden, and like many women of their time, they played music, painted, and did needlework. Growing up, they turned into real beauties, created families, and lived a happy long life almost without parting. When their time came, they promised to each other to find each other in a new incarnation. But there are about 8 billion people in the world, and finding your twin among them is a task from the field of fiction, unless your souls are connected by an invisible thread that, under certain tension, begins to vibrate and create a resonant sound. One of the girls lived on the shore of the warm sea. She was fond of music since childhood, composed poetry, attended a painting school, and had a divine voice. When she sang, the angels in heaven applauded her, and the birds fell silent, listening to the delightful lilt of her voice. Despite the fact that she lived in the seaside, she never swam, although she really wanted to. But when water got into her ears, she experienced painful sensations. So she was careful and contented herself with throwing flat pebbles into the water so that they made a couple of jumps on the surface of the water. Large black-headed birds strutting along the shore attracted her attention for a long time, and invariably led her into a thoughtful state, as if reminding her of something long ago and completely forgotten. The other girl was born a few years later in a cold northern country where winter lasted for almost 6 months and summer was short and it was often very rainy. The city she lived in was the capital, but there was no sea in it. Meanwhile, the sea was absolutely necessary. It seemed to amplify the sound, beckoned, and promised incredible discoveries. When snow-white seagulls flew in the sky, she waved at them and shouted so loudly that the people around her looked at her in surprise. "Seagulls! Say hello to the sailors. Where this cry came from, she could not answer herself. It was just born in her head a long time ago, like a memory of some long ago, deeply forgotten but very important event. She really wanted to sing, but even in her early childhood she was tone deaf, so she could not repeat exactly a single melody. In all the other respects, they were just as similar as in their previous lives. They both had love of creativity, versification, love of nature, and external similarity. Now all that remained was to find each other among the 8 billion people of the earth living on 6 continents in almost 200 countries of the world. There is no point in describing 20 years of painstaking searches here. The main thing is that in the end they were successful. However, in the modern world, it may be easier than 100 or even 50 years ago. We recognized each other right away. It was just that my heart was pounding wildly. I was suddenly hot and dizzy, tears of joy of finding, and the end of an endless series of searches. We live on different continents. We live in different climatic zones. We are separated by an ocean and 6,000 miles. We speak different languages, but we do understand each other perfectly. We drink our morning and evening coffee at the same time in different time zones and dream of doing it sitting at the same table together. The same sun rays from the crystal ball are reflected on our walls. We look up at the sky and see the same constellations above our heads, and the light of these stars winks at us, welcoming us. When one of us is asleep, the other sings lullabies. Just like in ancient times, we adore the sea and sea travel. We have already managed to meet twice on neutral territory, and we miss each other very much. We even sang together, and the one who sings managed to lead the one who has absolutely no hearing.
My dear Queen, I thank heaven for our meeting. It's a miracle that happens once in a million years. Just think how many people still do not find in each other like-mindedness, unity of faith, co-creation and inspiration. We are the lucky ones. I congratulate you and myself on your birthday.